Some of you may be wondering, what are all these people down here? They are our panel of experts that are here to answer our questions. And I'll just take a second to introduce them. If you want to raise your hand. Representing the English department, we have Jonah Ibsen. Representing the math department, Sarah Butler. Visual art is Wendy Rand. Performing arts, Molly Clark. Science, Heather Lesser. Social studies and history, Matt Henshin. And then we have some students on the panel as well. Kate Cox, Adam Porterfield, Tina Pan, Rowan Clow, May Murphy, and Tim Wilson.
All right, so let's get started with our first question. I'm actually going to throw this out to a student to answer, since this is something that you do every year. So the question is it a race to sign up for classes? And is there a chance you won't get into a class that you would like to get into?
So I wouldn't call it a race personally, but I have experienced not getting the classes I wanted. I think my freshman year I actually signed up for French, but now I've taken 4 years of Spanish because that's just what fit my schedule. So it's definitely something that can happen, but you can work with our great guidance counselors to find a class that works for you. Erin's helped me 3 years of conflicts in my schedule, but it's always worked out fine for me.
So one of the challenges with schedules, I think that we can all appreciate as parents, juggling many different things, is that it's a puzzle that all has to fit together well. So as Adam said, it might not fit together exactly how you want it to, but there are lots of different options and counselors to help you identify what it is that you want to take. Next question. Should a ninth grader have a free block or a study hall during the day? I'm actually going to throw this out to students. Maybe we can get two different perspectives based on your ninth grade year. What do you think?
Preferably for your ninth grade year, I wouldn't necessarily recommend having a free block because all your classes are more structured, so you're more slowly gonna get immersed into the courses. So your course load shouldn't be overly heavy.
I think also for your ninth grade year, it can be nice if you play sports, because I was an athlete and I did a sport all year round, and I didn't have time when I got home to do homework. And if I had a free block in the morning, it was nice to have time to catch up on homework from those classes. But yes, we start the year off pretty slow just so you can get used to your new schedule and everything and just high school in general.
Thank you both. So there's some questions about math. So Sarah, as the math expert at the table, can you share a little bit about the different options for math in ninth grade?
Absolutely. So there are several different pathways for math throughout your time at Harwood. Most students take Integrated Math 1 their freshman year, but there's some other options kind of depending on areas of interest. We also have Integrated Math 1 with Engineering, and that's basically a 2-credit course. It meets every day for 1 block a day. And that you get both a math credit and an engineering credit. So students learn both the math that you would get in Integrated Math 1 as well as kind of engineering principles and principles of design. And there's kind of some projects that they do throughout the year. And we're always looking for more students to try that out. It's also a prerequisite for a lot of the STEM classes. So if you're interested in STEM, that's a great way to go. Also looking for more women in STEM, so girls, come on and join us. And then the third option is if you're really kind of looking to expand your math career, we have an option to double up with Integrated Math 1 online and Integrated Math 2 in person. There are a few requirements if you want to do that. So you have to have a course score of 3.3 in your math class, a self-direction score of 3, and a MAP testing percentile of 70% or above. So all of that is outlined in the program of studies. We also have a really nice flow chart that outlines kind of the different ways you can progress in math through your high school years.
Great, thank you. So this is a very, very important question that I'm sure is on the minds of all the students in here who are currently at CrossFit. They would like to know about lunch and if the food in the cafeteria is good. So who would like to weigh in? I think we have lots of people probably who can weigh in.
So the lunch here is like decent, I guess. It's pretty good. A lot of people have personal preferences about it. There are some days when you can see nobody in the main lunch line, and there are some days when you can see it like taking 10 minutes to get your lunch. This year back, we also have the salad bar, which we didn't have for a few years because of COVID, and there's a lot of like fresh vegetables in it and great options. They also have like some other little, like sometimes like a pasta salad in there. We get like fruit at lunch, there's milk. The past few years, lunch has been free because of like money by the state. I'm not sure if that's gonna happen this year or this coming year. But yeah, I would give Harwood lunch like a solid 8 out of 10.
Thank you, Ben. All right. So the same questions popped up a few times about whether it's possible for students to take both band and chorus. Molly, could you weigh in?
Absolutely, yes. You, especially as ninth graders with sometimes a little bit more flexibility in your schedule, I highly recommend if you are currently in band and chorus that you try somehow to continue taking both band and chorus. Your ninth grade year is typically a little bit more open maybe than say junior year, which gets a little bit more packed sometimes. And so take advantage of that. And there could be a possibility with scheduling that you could take both, but at least make it known to your school counselors that you would like to be in band and chorus, and they will do what they can to make it happen. No promises, but absolutely you can take as many music classes as you like. There are only a couple that there are prerequisites, but all of that is outlined in the program and studies.
Great, thank you. There are a few questions about language. Erin, I'll have you weigh in here. If you could share, if a student didn't take language in middle school, are they still able to take a language in high school?
Most definitely. You would just start taking the first level of the language, so like French 1 or Spanish 1. In the high school, you have an opportunity to also take Latin, which is what I took in high school, and really helped me better understand a lot of English words and improve my spelling, oddly enough. So it's my plus for Latin.
And if you can just add on a little bit about if there's a placement test for foreign language classes so that students can go into a second year of the language in their ninth grade year.
We do work closely with the middle level world language teachers, and when students make their course selections, by that time your world language teacher might have already made a recommendation for you as to what course to select. If they haven't, now would be a great time to practice some of that self-advocacy and try to have a conversation with your world language teacher. But once you make your course selection in March, when we go down to your middle school, I take all of that information and we'll share it back with the world language teachers so they see who requested to take Spanish 1 or Spanish 2. And then we make adjustments based on their feedback.
Wendy, the next question is to you, and Molly, maybe you can also partner with Wendy, but about the possibility of taking both performing art classes as well as visual art classes here at Harwood.
Hi, thank you for asking that. Oh, I can't turn a button on. Oh, there we go. It's a long day. Okay. I believe that kids can take both. There's enough room in the schedule for us to cooperate and share. So, yes, you can take both.
Definitely. Just as students can take band and chorus, they can also take band and intro to crafts. And I have many, many students who are currently in both chorus and the visual art. So it's definitely possible.
Yeah, thanks. There's 4 art classes that they can take besides, well, in addition to Intro to Crafts.
Great, thank you. Just a friendly reminder, if you have any questions, definitely add them on. I hear a little chatter, and I love that people are excited and eager to connect, but it's hard for some people to hear up here, so I'm just going to ask if you have anything that you want to submit for a question, please do so using that QR code. Thank you. All right. I am going to ask Ellen to answer this next question. If she could share with us what PFE is, what is covered in that class.
Hi, by the way, I'm Ellen Bearings. I'm not an expert, but I'm here. No, I work in the Connected Learning Department, and PFE is kind of our flagship course, and it's the foundation for students in 9th grade. And students focus on who they are and in terms of strengths, interests, values. They look at options for the future through doing some exploration. They actually build a resume, they learn how to interview, and all of it is to help them also look at what they might like to do through high school and get exposed to the opportunities so that they make better use of their time at high school and take action using that advocacy to build a schedule that takes advantage of everything Harwood has to offer.
Thanks, Ellen. So the next question is about PE, and I'm going to ask a few different students to respond to this question based on your experience. If you could each describe how you are fulfilling your 1.5 PE credits for graduation.
Hi. Okay. So I actually had a very interesting experience. I've done 3 different things to fulfill my PE credits. Number 1, I did an independent study, which you can do. So I do gymnastics. So I used my gymnastics hours to build a portfolio and get all my hours for PE for 1 credit, or a half a credit. And then I also took combination activities, so an actual PE class, because you are required to take 1 class in Harwood. And then I also did an online PE class to fulfill another requirement, because that just is what fit into my schedule last year when I was so busy.
I took combination activities, which like Kate said, an in-person class. I took that my freshman year. In 10th grade, I also took another in-person class called cardio weight training. And then also something that a lot of students do is using your sports to get a credit. So 2 seasons equals 1 of the credits you need to graduate. So I play soccer and tennis, and last year I took advantage of that, and I used my soccer season and my tennis season to get the credit. And just at the end of both of the seasons, you have to do a reflection, which then gets graded, and then they add the 2 grades to get averages out into the grade that you get for that PE credit.
Great, thank you. I have a question here about Harkness, and we have some students at the table who have been Harkness leaders. So Adam, I'm going to start with you. If you could explain, or if someone else wants to jump in first, you're in my line of vision, Adam, sorry. If you could explain what Harkness is here.
Okay. There might be people who know this, have a better definition than me, but I can give it my best shot. But essentially, Harkness is like a discussion or a dialogue. We'll gather around a table with like about 10 students, 8 to 12-ish, and you'll discuss something usually with a text that you're referencing, and you might have a teacher or maybe a student leader kind of guiding this discussion. They might be tracking where the conversation is going in our Harkness webs, and this is a way to kind of dig into a text more or talk about a current event or something like that. Is that good? Does anybody else want to jump in? I can keep going.
I'm gonna just add on to that for a sec. It's kind of like a conversation. It's not really led by anyone. You don't raise your hand. It's just, you kind of like look at each other and you just talk about whatever it is. And you also do it in language classes like French or Spanish. We also use Harkness as a way to talk about a topic or something, but it's mostly used in English classes or history. Yeah. And some science classes do it as well.
All right, so one last question for this session, or section rather, and I'm going to throw it out to the students again. If you could share some examples of not non-academic, but the courses that you aren't required to take in 9th grade. What were the other courses that you weren't required to take in 9th grade that you filled your schedule with? It was that long ago, you can't remember? Yeah.
It's just not that
And extra STEM credit, so I took aerospace engineering, and there's other ones as well. There's Intro to Computer Science. I don't know if anyone here is taking that. Oh, well, some people take that. I've heard that's a good class too.
I took a social studies elective called Design and Sustainability that focused on creating sustainable communities with Mr. Hedgen. And I think that was a STEM class.
I took French, which isn't a required class, but like they recommend take 2 years of it.
I didn't take anything like out of the ordinary. I did Spanish and I also did art, and I love the art program. I love hands-on activities, and I took Intro to Crafts my first year with Wendy, and I think I've in total taken about like 5 different art classes throughout my years here. I just keep loading them in, and I love just the art program.
Awesome, thank you all. All right, I'm going to hand it back over to our counselors for a few minutes. If you have questions, you can keep adding them because we'll be taking questions a few more times.
All right, here comes Justine, the proficiency-based learning coordinator.
Good evening. So this will be fine, I think. All right, so my name is Jessica Dean. I'm the teaching and learning coordinator. I work together with all of the teachers to coordinate all our curricula together, and then I also do a lot of work with our supports for students. So I'm going to talk a little bit about graduation requirements in our proficiency system, and then the supports that we have available for everyone. So Erin, a few minutes ago, talked about the course requirements for graduation. That's one of kind of 2 aspects of our graduation requirements. And the only thing I wanted to add here is that in order for courses to count towards graduation, you have to be in the proficient range or above on those courses, and that's a 2.6 or above. I wanted to make a note of this because particularly if you're a parent who's maybe had a student at Harwood already, this is a bit of a change from in the past. And so starting next year, including in 9th grade, all students in their courses need to have a 2.6 or above in order for that class to count as a credit towards graduation. And so this is our kind of proficiency range of beginning, emerging, proficient, and advanced, which should match up to the same thing that you're seeing in middle school. This clicker is being there. Oh, I got it. Thanks, Tina. All right, so the other aspect of our graduation requirements that fits with our proficiency system is the learning expectation requirements. We have 6 learning expectations, which are these overarching skill areas that are assessed across classes. So in a science class, for example, students might be assessed in integrative thinking, problem solving, and literacy, and then all of those scores also count towards those learning expectations. Each year, students will see and parents will see their scores that are coming together in those learning expectations, and they also overall need to be in the proficient range or above for graduation. This also helps us target certain skill areas. So as a student, you might see like, oh, I really want to work on my problem-solving skills, and I can work on them in a range of different classes to improve that skill and also improve that score. All right. So along the way, we want there to be lots of different ways that students and families and also us here at Harwood can help keep track and help advise students along the way. So we will have a lot more detail on all of these things as we get further into and you become a 9th grader. But just really quickly, a couple of those things are the Jump Rope portal, which you may already be using, and you can log in at any time to see how classes are going. This gives you a course score view, so you can see how you're doing in your science class and in Global Studies English. The other thing that we do, or the next thing we do, is that 8 times a year, so kind of every quarter and every mid-quarter, we will send progress reports home, and that gives kind of a bigger view from Jump Rope. It shows both course scores and also the learning expectations. This is a screenshot of part of that report. So that'll show you 8 times a year how those learning expectations are going. This student might see, again, the problem solving, that they might want to like focus on problem solving in their math class or science class or where it's being assessed. Another thing that we do, and we'll hear a little bit more about TA in a bit, is that we have ongoing monitoring in TA, where TAs work with students to check Jump Rope and set goals and advise and help them reach out to teachers to always be kind of monitoring and setting goals and keeping track. So one of my jobs as the teaching and learning coordinator is to be constantly looking at data and using that to help make sure we have systems in place to support all students. I'm going to talk briefly about 3 different things that we have in place for that. The first is called ELO, which is our Extended Learning Opportunities. This is in the schedule almost every day, with the exception of Wednesdays right now. And it's flexible time that students can book to teachers that they want and need to see. Teachers can book students, so if there's a student that's having trouble with a concept or hasn't handed something in, the teacher might book them ahead of time. And the intention of those blocks is really for support and extension for students. So students can get support on assignments, they can use that time for retakes or revisions or to improve their learning. They can also use it to extend into new topics to learn further or try to push to advanced on something. We've also really capitalized on this flexible time to offer some of our club meetings during the day. We also use that time for assemblies every other week. It can be used for meetings with a school counselor or our case manager. It can also be used to work on independent studies. So there's a lot of flexibility in that time, which I think has been a real benefit. Another thing that we are doing to support students are ELO series, where a set number of ELOs, like maybe 1 ELO a week, is pre-booked with a group of students to work on the same learning or activity over time. Some of these are predetermined, like there might be a group to support students who are struggling in US history, but there also are some opt-in groups, and they have academic focuses, and also there are some wellness-focused ELO series. Some examples are, there's an SAT math prep ELO series going on right now. There's one about one-act playwriting with Jonah. There are some around time management, body positivity. So these are like longer-term series of ELOs around a certain topic. And then finally, for additional academic support, we have guided instruction classes. And these are semester or full year courses that are in a student schedule to help them build up skills in a specific area and also support coursework that's related to those skills. The 3 that we have right now are guided literacy, which is specifically working on reading and writing skills and usually pairs up with supporting students in their global studies, history and English, US history, or American lit. We have guided problem solving, which is usually directly supporting students in IM1 for math. And then we have guided strategies, which is broader and is supporting students in organization and time management and other executive functioning skills to kind of support all of their classes. For the most part, these are going to be student recommendations based on their middle school performance. So we'll look at data, we'll talk with middle school teachers, and students might be recommended for these courses based on need. All right, so now there's time for if you have additional questions just based on that information, and I'll pass it back over to Meg.
So one thing that was mentioned that we didn't hear a lot about yet was clubs. So I thought I would ask first a few teachers to weigh in, and then maybe a few students can share what they do. Matt, do you mind sharing a little bit about clubs that you've either supported or find really exciting here at Harwood?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's quite a few clubs at Harwood for a school this size, and a lot of the clubs have a pretty strong emphasis on like service learning and service to the community. I mean, she's the first, looks at issues of, women's rights throughout the world. There's Rotary Club Interact. There's ROC, which is Rooted Organizing Committee, that looks at, recent immigrants coming to America, also issues of racial justice and inclusion in our community. Harwood Youth Lobby helps to organize students around, helps to basically build a youth movement to put pressure on lawmakers at the state level to pass legislation that young people care about. I feel bad because I'm probably missing so many, but I'm sure students will pipe in, but there seems to be quite a few.
Jonah, anything that you want to add on, given your experience?
Sure, just briefly, I would add that a lot of the clubs, as far as I know, were founded as much by students seeking out teachers to partner with as by teachers themselves. So for example, a couple of years ago I started, after being approached by a student, I started a BIPOC affinity club for any students of color that are looking for a safe space to support each other and talk about their experiences in the district. So if there's a club that you are interested in joining that doesn't yet exist as a Harwood student, seek out a teacher that you feel like would be supportive of that, and chances are it can happen.
Great. From the student perspective, could you share how you find out about clubs?
A lot of the times this year we had a club fair where all the clubs had booths that they set up that you could just walk around and hear more about clubs that you're interested in. And I personally started the Dungeons and Dragons Club after reaching out to Mr. Ibsen about wanting to start one. So I start that, and then I co-lead Bit Club, building intuitive technologies.
I'm also part of Bit Club, and I'm another one of the co-leaders. There's 3 of us. And I also am the leader of the aviation club here at the school, which was created when a few students came up from middle school, which had a club. And now we have a aviation club where we fly airplanes around here after school.
I personally started out in freshman and sophomore year being a part of about 5 or 6 clubs, and I've broken it down to this year I'm solely in student government, and I'm also a part of a couple different clubs outside of Harwood. But this year student government is working really hard to promote club communication and getting really cohesive with all of the things that we're doing for Harwood. And so we have a leadership group going right now with all the leaders of Harwood clubs to try and promote that. And I think Ellen could talk a little more about that if she wanted to.
Because we know how much I love to speak in public, right, Kate? So yes, we are just knowing that the club opportunities at Harwood have grown exponentially since I started here, that's for sure. And what's happening is clubs are often doing some similar activities where if they got together, they could collaborate and really increase the intensity of their voice and action. So this group is getting together every other week. And we're getting together tomorrow. The idea is to have these clubs be able to communicate with each other, but also to be able to increase their level of voice and participation in decision making at Harwood. So working as a collective entity, how can they bring all of this leadership to helping the school to continue to grow and be the best it can be? How's that, Kate?
Thank you, Ellen. I just want to add one more thing about clubs, is you can kind of join and leave whenever you want. There isn't really like a set, like you have to be in all your clubs by this date and you're locked in for the year. It's pretty fluid. Like most clubs, I'd say, you can kind of just show up even. As long as you sign up, they generally meet during ELOs, sometimes before school, not as much this year, but yeah. After school too, that's true.
So students, another question for you is how do you find out about different ELOs or ELO series? And this is a good question, one that I was just having actually today with a student.
Every morning we have this thing called the TA announcements, which they're probably going to talk about coming up, but it used to be like your teacher advisor, your homeroom, would project the announcements on their screen, and it usually says like what's for lunch, like sports and stuff, and it also has like other things that are going on, and that's where you find out a lot about like ELO series. But also we use this, the way that we sign up for ELOs is through Adaptive Scheduler, which is on PowerSchool, and it has like all the days of the week, and when you sign up you can see all of the options listed, and there's a certain amount of seats or spots for every offering, but you get pretty aware of them. Also, sometimes there's posters around the school, like for all of the new ELO series that are just starting this semester. There are posters all in the school showing those.
We also do the signups for ELO during advisory, so that's where the teacher-student relationship in advisory is really important. So for example, if you know that one of your TA students is doing IM1, the math class, and also doing math online, you may kind of break your own rule and say, yeah, you can sign up for 2 study halls on Thursday because I know you really need it. Whereas another student who you suspect might have more productive things to do, you would advise them to sign up to see a teacher they're behind with or to join a club. So that teacher-student relationship, we really kind of guide students or oversee what they're choosing to help them use that time really wisely.
Great, thanks. There are lots of questions that we weren't able to get to right now. I want to assure you that, again, we'll be sending out communication with answers to all of the ones we haven't got to yet, but we're going to move on to the next section here, and I'm going to ask Ellen to come on up. You can talk down there. You can talk.
They're really pushing me on public speaking today. So this is not my slide.
It was my slide, but I'm happy to share it with you, Ellen. So as Jess shared, we offer a number of options to support students academically here at Harwood, but we also are really unique in the vast ways that we support the social emotional well-being of all of our students. Every student has a school counselor, we have an amazing health office, we have student support specialists, a restorative practices coordinator, even a school-based clinician. And really unique to Harwood is our Wellness Center, which was created for students by students, and it is a place that is accessible most of the times during the day when students need a few minutes to reset and regulate before going back to class. We actually had a number of other high schools all over the state of Vermont that came to check out our Wellness Center over the summer, which I think is really cool and a testament to the work that our Wellness Center has been doing. But one of the key pieces for the ways that we support our Harwood students is teacher advisory, or AG. And Ellen Bearings is part of our Connected Learning department and 50% of the Next Step pair, as well as our teacher advisory coordinator. So I'll turn it over to her.